Well, hi there, it's Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. This is video 12 in a health journey where I have been documenting myself using the glucose lowering hacks by author and biochemist Jessie Inchauspe. I've been working out of both of her books now over the last 12 weeks. It seems like this time has flown by, but I'm working out of Glucose Revolution and the Glucose Goddess Method. Her second book, The Glucose Goddess Method, focuses on 4 main glucose hacks that what Jessie says are the most important to add. And I've already been working on those. I have been slowly, very, very slowly adding those to my daily routine. I'm trying to create habits. I am trying to create a lifestyle. I'm not looking for a temporary fix. I've been in and out of the pre-diabetic pool over the last 5 years. My body is going through so many changes right now in this menopausal state. Like everything is changing. And what worked for me in my 20s and 30s and 40s is definitely not working for me right now. So that is the reason why I have been going really slowly with adding these hacks. I have focused on and maintained all these 12 weeks now my savory breakfast. I used to be somebody who would start the day off with oats. I would have my oats, I would have my berries. Sometimes I used to put like a tablespoon of maple syrup and have sugar in the morning time. But I have completely cut that out. I have not had, I think I've only had oats one time and it wasn't for breakfast. And I think I got an inflammatory response actually to it because I'd not had them in so long. I've only had an oat meal like that. I think I had like a breakfast for dinner type of thing. And I've only done that one time, but I have exclusively now done a savory breakfast in the morning. I am having no sugar in my coffee, and I've actually cut that out now. It's been way before I even decided to do these hacks. I cannot do black coffee. Now, technically I can do black coffee. I just absolutely can't stand it. I can do black coffee, but I really prefer not to. I like a little cream. I used to be somebody who would put that like coconut creamer or the peppermint mocha creamer, and I would do it with half and half. But half and half has 1 gram of sugar in it. I have completely cut out half and half. I have completely cut out my any sweetener of any kind at all in my coffee. And I've been that way now actually for quite a while. Every once in a while, my brain is like, hey, remember how delicious that sweet flavor was? And it was really, really good. Coffee tastes really great with sweetener. I think that's why coffee desserts are so delicious. I had a coffee coated creme brulee not too long ago, and it was so, so good. But anyway, over these 12 weeks, savory breakfast only, no sugar. I've not even been having fruit hardly at all in the morning after my breakfast, but that is something that you can do. You can have sugar, in the form of fruit in the morning time and starch for flavor. Every once in a while, I've added a cup of berries, but I usually save that for later on in the day. So savory breakfast, vinegar drink. I am having at least 1 vinegar drink per day, per meal, because of that acetic acid. And something I heard Jessie say recently, 2 interesting things. One was so to back up, we have to pay attention to the hormonal response in our bodies due to what we eat. So when you take in a lot of sugar and starch, that raises our glucose levels, which then will signify the pancreas to release a hormone called insulin to help pull the sugar out of the system to lower the response. And of course, you could get insulin resistance, which means more and more insulin has to be released into your body to try to maintain the sugar levels, which is why in last week, I believe I read it in Jessie's book where she talks about the compounding effects of having high glucose levels at all times, and then also creating those massive spikes that it is a compounding effect within the body. The interesting thing about vinegar, the acetic acid in vinegar for the vinegar drink hack, is that it will cause your body to absorb the glucose molecules without, and like up to 30%. It like flattens the curve to 30%. And it can do that without the release of insulin. Something about the acetic acid molecule, how it impacts the body. And I'm not a scientist, but I thought that was fascinating. Also, the movement hack is the same way. And that was also one of the hacks. Savory breakfast, vinegar, veggie starter. The movement hack also will cause your muscles to take up the glucose that's in your body. So you have a meal, and then you want to move at least for 10 minutes within that 90-minute period after you eat for at least 10 minutes. It will cause your muscles to take up the glucose in your system, and it can do that without insulin. So I thought that was fascinating. There's so much I don't know, but so much I want to learn about these hacks and how and why they work on our bodies. But I'm just a homemaker. I am not a doctor, which is why I always say I have in these videos a little disclaimer that these videos are for entertainment purposes only. I'm just sharing with you what I'm discovering along the way. I am not a doctor, but it is fascinating and would prompt a really good conversation with a doctor. And of course, the fourth hack is the veggie starter, which the fiber from the vegetables creates that viscous mesh in the upper intestinal lining, therefore reducing the amount of glucose that can be absorbed up into your bloodstream, and it slows down that spike. Something interesting is, and I mentioned this in my last video, in video 11, that I had my first appointment with a registered nurse dietitian. She's a functional medicine practitioner. She also has a couple of other specialties that she works with, but she helps people, and I have got a lot of food allergies, food sensitivities. I did order this week my, I put the order in through her. I'm now waiting for her to order this extensive blood work panel that I'll have to get done. I'm being tested for the non-celiac gluten sensitivity, leaky gut, all kinds of food allergies, inflammatory issues. I am really, really looking forward to that. Also, she's asked me to change out some of my different supplements. When I get them all in next week's video, I'll show you everything I'm working with, because this series is going to continue on just as a health journey. I had the most amazing conversation with my hairstylist this morning. We're always on a health journey. I mean, the longer that we live on the earth, we're in different stages of life, or different things crop up, or you have to be managing hormones, or maybe you have an injury, or maybe you've developed some food sensitivities and intolerances, or our bodies are just always changing the longer that we live on the earth. We're always maintaining our health. I know for me, it's changed a lot, especially in my menopausal years. My RN dietitian wanted me to order a few supplements because some of the things I was taking were not as good quality. For example, she wanted me ordering vitamin D with K2. I've got that coming. One of the things she wanted me to order was fiber, because I had to do like a food diary before I met with her. And she said that I was not getting in enough fiber. And I agree with her. I think that is a fair statement, that I could work on it. I've definitely thought a lot more about vegetables since I've been doing the veggie hack. I have thought about it more and I've done better, but I tend to go through phases in my lifetime where I will eat a certain way. Like maybe I work on vegetables a lot and then I get bored with it and I go on to something else like fruit. I am not getting enough fiber in general. So she has me ordering a fiber supplement. I'm supposed to start really slowly. She does want me to have it in the morning and in the evening. Her instructions were, because if I take in this fiber before a meal, it will slow down a glucose spike that could happen due to my meal. So I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. Maybe if you're somebody who is struggling getting in your vegetables. I know some people don't like. My husband, he is the worst at vegetables. and fruit for that matter. He eats a college diet, and it's not the best for him, especially, for he and I, now that we're both in our 50s, it's like you can't abuse your body the way that you did when you were in your 20s. Have you noticed that? Yeah, it comes for you. It comes for us all. But he really struggles with getting in vegetables. He just doesn't like them. So maybe if you're somebody like that, having a good quality soluble fiber could, not only then are you getting fiber, but then evidently it also is having the same impact on the blood sugar. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. But when I get all those things in, I'll share with you. I'm still waiting for my information from her to go set up my blood tests. But what I did do was I did contact my family practice doctor and made sure that the order to get my A1C numbers checked in my cholesterol and my fasting glucose were at the lab that they work with, which is like part of their whole facility. I called earlier this week to make sure that was all set, and I'm glad I did because they sent it over. I'm going to wait I'm going to wait past next week, or maybe I'll do it at the end of next week. Then I have my appointment with my family practice doctor in about 2.5 weeks. So I'll go in and get that done beforehand. And I'll be getting an extensive workup of everything that's going on with me, all of this detailed work from the dietitian, plus the A1C, fasting glucose, and cholesterol. Oh, and I did, now if you've been watching this little video series from the very beginning, I started off tracking my weight, but I stopped it, and I always meant to share that in a video, but I just keep forgetting. I was checking my weight every day, but then I thought, you know what? I don't want to do that. I do not want to check my weight every day right now. No, I do want to achieve weight loss. I have a good solid 20 pounds that should come off of my frame. It would be better for me, better for my joints. I'd look better. I mean, I'd look better. My clothes would fit me better. It'd be better, but mostly it's for my joints and my back, overall well-being. I've got a good solid 20 pounds on my body, and I don't want that to creep up. I met my dietitian last year because my weight was in this menopausal stage was just creeping up, and I do not want that. I want to be a somewhat lean, mean fighting machine. That's what I want. And I want to have some muscles. I want to be cut. I want to be strong. I want to have energy. I want to feel good. I think that's more important than looking a particular way, although I don't mind that either, to be fair. I want to feel good. I can tell I've been having gluten lately, and either A, it's an inflammatory response just from sugar, or I do indeed have that non-celiac gluten sensitivity. But I have been suffering a little bit over the past week and a half, and it is directly related to what I'm eating. I know for sure of that. Once I get that blood work done and I have the official picture to what's going on in my body, then I will feel confident and honestly purposeful in eliminating foods that I need to. I have a daughter, well, actually both of my daughters we all have a lot of food sensitivities and allergies. My daughter, Megan, I'm getting ready to have lunch with her here in a little bit. I'm going to be using the movement hack after our lunch, by the way. I feel like I'm running out of time. But she has a condition where it's almost like it's what gastric bypass patients have, where they have a condition called rapid emptying syndrome. My daughter's never had that. She was diagnosed in her mid-20s. Very unlikely, very strange. She has that condition, so that is something she has to be really careful about. Also, a lot of food sensitivities, a lot of food allergies. Same thing with my daughter, Lydia. My daughter, Lydia, also worked with this dietitian who I am now seeing. And she also went and saw a local gastric doctor. She is going to get scoped because she has a lot of inflammatory issues. She's got a ton of food allergies and food sensitivities as well. She has tried the carnivore diet. she did enjoy it, but she's, I think, kind of struggled sticking with it. I think that's kind of how I feel about gluten. Like, I want to know for sure before I go and eliminate a food, even if I'm having symptoms. And that's probably not the best way. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying what I do. Anyway, but movement hack for this week, since we're getting out of time here, and I am going to have a cooking portion. I am going to also read to you really quick what all of the 10 glucose lowering hacks are. And remember, you can find Jessie Inchauspe. She's called Glucose Goddess on Instagram, and you can find her here on YouTube. I love listening to interviews with her. She is so stylish and cute, but she is one smart lady and a lady with a passion. I want to read to you her story as well, and I'll do that during the cooking portion. Nothing shocking, just typical savory breakfast. Although next week I want to work on some Greek yogurt breakfasts and maybe not take a break from my eggs. I'll probably have them for lunch. But let me read to you what all of the 10 glucose hacks are from her book. Okay, number 1, eat foods in the right order. And that is what I'm going to practice on. And I will read to you during the cooking portion of this video. Add a green starter to your meal, which she's now changed it to mean vegetables. And remember, it can also be beans and legumes. Because of their protein and fiber, they create that same viscous mesh. So here it's called, in her Glucose Revolution book, which was the first book, add a green starter. Now it's add a veggie starter. And then stop counting calories. And that was the thing with my weight. I didn't want to focus on that right now. Now, down the road, as I continue to work with a dietitian, that is something that I would like to achieve. But right now, I am trying to focus on getting the protein in, adding these hacks, lowering my glucose spike. That is the focus. And I'm hoping over time, my body will release weight. But this has been a journey. This has been a journey now for a long time. So I'm not counting calories. And I hate food logging too. I cannot stand it anyway. Then she said, flatten your breakfast curve, which is the savory breakfast. Have any type of sugar you like. They're all the same. And that was her big thing too, is like sugar. I used to add a tablespoon of maple syrup. I love pure maple syrup, thinking that was better than sugar, but sugar is sugar. Now, there are some sweeteners that do impact your blood sugar less than others. I think monk fruit might be one of them. Eventually, when we get into that, I'll read from that one. Pick dessert over a sweet snack. In other words, if you're going to have your sweet, and I've already been using this hack, I was already familiar with it. Since I've been doing this 12-week journey, I have not had one single sweet thing on its own. I have only had it as dessert because, once again, it's like the food order. When you have more of this food in your body, or you have your veggie starter, your vinegar drink, you lower the glucose intake of your dessert if you have it on a full stomach. I've already been doing that one. Reach for vinegar before you eat. After you eat, move. If you have a snack, go savory. Put some clothes on your carbs. This week's focus is going to be eat foods in the right order. I am continuing to do my movement hack. I've been doing really, really good with that one. For example, last night, I had a day off yesterday. I sat in my favorite chair. I watched some favorite movies. I ordered in DoorDash. It was absolutely wonderful. Got my meal. I had my dessert. I actually did get a little dessert that came from this restaurant. I had my vinegar drink before my meal. I also had veggies. I had asparagus. I ate my asparagus first. Then I ate my meal. I had my dessert only one time, and I had it after. And then I walked around. I actually ended up walking around. Sometimes I'll do that right here in this circuit right here. I will just walk that circuit, and that's what I did. My husband's out of town for Police Week. He's a federal law enforcement officer, and he is also part of a national grief counseling team. And he is at Police Week in Washington, D.C., ministering to all of the families who have lost loved ones in the line of duty over the past year. It's really quite extraordinary. I so admire that he does this work. And anyway, last night he called and we talked, and I just walked around after that meal. And you know what I found about the movement hack is sometimes after my meal, I don't want to get up and move, but I have been reminding myself, just get up and move 10 minutes, do some dishes, go run and do the laundry, walk around this little circuit right here. Or of course, if I'm out and about like today, after my lunch with my daughter that I'm about to leave for right now, I'm going to go out for a walk then. But I find that once I get moving and maybe that 10 minutes pass by, I'm like, oh, I could do another 10 minutes. And that's what I ended up doing. All right, well, I will say goodbye to you visually right here, but I do have the cooking portion coming up, and I will read to you about having foods in the right order. I will add things here and there. I'll be reading to you from Jessie's book, of course. And then next week, I'll show you my supplements, let you know how I've been doing on my protein, of course, adding this other hack to my routine. And I'm going to try some different yogurt recipes. I'm going to take a break from the eggs in the morning time and try to bring in some more fiber with my protein with some yogurt dishes. I've got a couple of favorites and then a couple of new ones I want to try. I am going to be reading to you from Hack 1 in Glucose Revolution called Eat Foods in the Right Order. And this is a really fascinating chapter, by the way. And this hack is quite powerful. And a little snippet from further into the chapter, which we'll get to eventually. Jessie says here that a Cornell research team showed that if we eat our food in the wrong order, meaning if we eat starches and sugar first, then ghrelin, our hunger hormone, will return to its pre-meal levels just after 2 hours. If we eat our food in the right order, which means we eat starches and sugars last, ghrelin stays suppressed for much longer. I'll just fill you in what I've got going on in this little cooking portion. I love to get these pre-made meals. Now, I do a lot of cooking also throughout the week, but I love to have these pre-made meals, especially on days when I'm filming or I'm busy or I'm working from home. It's very convenient. And I think that when you're trying to eat in a particular way, whatever that way is for you, the more that you can food prep or have foods ready to go that fit what you're trying to do, what your goals are, the more success that you'll have. And I love having these healthy pre-made meals. I always pick up several packages. I always pick up a couple of proteins. I always pick up a couple of different vegetable prepared tins. Now, technically, you can actually cook these in the little tins that they come in, but I like to spread them out a little bit. And I like my baked veggies to get a little bit of a crisp sometimes. And I feel like in those tins, they don't always do that. These vegetable kebabs with the baby Bella mushrooms on there are so yummy. And I am gonna drizzle them with olive oil, salt and pepper, and of course my favorite, rosemary and thyme for these type of vegetables. I think that rosemary and thyme pair well with the earthiness of these vegetables when they're baked. And there's a little bit of a heavy pour with the olive oil. You'll see there in a little bit eventually when I move these kebabs over to the tray in which I'm going to cook them in. Because I'm looking in the camera, making sure everything's in focus. And yeah, we had a bit of a heavy pour. I would have to say I don't typically use this much olive oil, but I do love olive oil, and so I just poured it on top. It'll be a heavy drizzle, you'll see, but it was still very, very delicious. But anyway, I am also having this meal with leftovers. I am having for leftovers what I had for my Mother's Day meal. My 3 children spent the day with me. My husband has been out of town, like I mentioned, for Police Week, and we made one of our favorite meals. We call it deconstructed shells. Technically, it is a meat and cheese mixture that you're supposed to put inside those large jumbo shells, and then you bake it. but we love to eat it not always like that. It is Johnsonville mild Italian sausage, specifically Johnsonville. It has to be that brand. And then regular, non-generic Philadelphia cream cheese. It is 1 package of the sausage to 1 package of the cream cheese. And then so however many packages of Johnsonville you have, that's how many Philadelphia cream cheese boxes, the little foil servings. I can't remember how many ounces it is. You have equal portions. Brown up the Johnsonville sausage, break it all up. Either you get it in without the casings, or if they're in the casings, you take the meat out of the casings, break it all up, and you'll have to drain it and use paper towels in the pan and get out all the oil once it's all browned. And I like a really good brown on it. Then you put in the cream cheese, let it incorporate. We then use Prego garlic and herb, specifically that sauce. Now, my children had it with pasta, but I wanted to have some ciabatta garlic bread that my daughter Megan made, so I went with rice. And you'll see that when I do my leftovers, I'll have the rice as the base. I'll put the cream cheese meat mixture on top, and then I'll put the sauce. And I just had one slice of the ciabatta garlic bread, and it was so good. But I had that on Mother's Day. I did not have it this day. I do try not to eat a lot of gluten, although like I was saying, I'm going to be finding out here really soon if I indeed officially have that gluten sensitivity. And if it is a yes, then I will cut it out of my diet. I will have to. That is my plan, but until then, I'm going to milk it, but we'll see what happens. Also, I am having my vinegar drink. I really try to get it in first thing in the morning, and this is my breakfast. I'm actually in my workout clothes, which is why when I'm usually doing these breakfast preparations, I am not in view because I am in my workout clothes behind the scenes. But I am having my vinegar drink, and sometimes I'll put it in the sparkling waters, but really I just prefer it in still water, a little lukewarm, and I drink it down fast. But this time I decided, since I was filming and things were just a little bit slower in the meal prep because I was filming, that I would sip the vinegar drink in that sparkling water. All right, well, I'm going to read to you while I finish preparing this breakfast here from the Eat Foods in the Right Order hack out of Glucose Revolution. Jessie says, so often we focus on what and what not to eat, but what about how to eat? It turns out that how we eat our food has a powerful effect on our glucose curves. 2 meals consisting of the same foods, and therefore the same nutrients and the same calories, can have vastly different impacts on our body, depending on how their components are eaten. I was taken aback when I read the scientific papers that proved this, notably a seminal one out of Cornell University in 2015. If you eat the items of a meal containing starch, fiber, sugar, protein, and fat in a specific order, you reduce your overall glucose spike by 73%, as well as your insulin spike by 48%. This is true for anyone with or without diabetes. And when I read that, I was shocked. I'm like, wow, that is powerful. Jessie goes on to say in her book here, what is the right order? It's fiber first, protein and fat second, starches and sugar last. According to the researchers, the effect of this sequencing is comparable to the effects of diabetes medications that are prescribed to diabetics to lower their glucose spikes. Wow, like that's impressive, isn't it? And what I ended up doing for dinner tonight was because I was busy all day long, I didn't get home till 7:30, so I was eating a very late meal. But when I came home, my lovely daughter, who was about to get married, had made these cookies called cowboy cookies, and oh, they are delicious. And the house smelled so good. And I thought, I'm using the eat your food in the right order hack. I had a huge serving of broccolini with butter for my veggie starter, plus just eating my veggies first. Then I had salmon, and then I had my cookies. Oh, and I had a vinegar drink beforehand too. And while I'm doing this voiceover, which is after my meal, I am standing up and I'm contracting my leg muscles for the movement hack. So I am using, and I love too that you can combine the hacks. I am using multiple hacks to prevent the glucose spike. But anyway, back to the book. A startling study from 2016 proved the finding even more definitively. 2 groups of type 2 diabetics were given a standardized diet for 8 weeks and asked to either eat their food in the right order or eat it however they pleased. The group who ate their food in the right order saw significant reduction in their HbA1c level, which means they started reversing their type 2 diabetes. The other group, eating the exact same food and number of calories, but in no particular order, didn't see an improvement in their condition. Talk about a groundbreaking discovery. Jessie says, the explanation for this surprising effect has to do with how our digestive system works. In order to visualize it, think of your stomach as a sink and your small intestines as the pipe below it. Anything you eat lands in your sink, then flows to your pipe, where it is broken down and absorbed into your bloodstream. Every minute, on average, about 3 calories worth of food trickles through from sink to pipe. This process is called gastric emptying. And like I was mentioning earlier, that one of my daughters has rapid emptying, which can cause a lot of problems. You can either have delayed gastric emptying or rapid emptying. Anyway, she goes on to say, if starches or sugars are the first thing to hit your stomach, they get to your small intestines very quickly. They are broken down into glucose molecules, which then make it through the bloodstream very quickly. That creates a glucose spike. The more carbs you eat, and the quicker you eat them, the more forcefully the load of glucose appears, the bigger the glucose spikes. She says, say you have both pasta and vegetables on your plate. And then she says, broccoli, anyone? I love broccoli. And you eat the pasta first, then the broccoli. The pasta, which is a starch, turns into glucose as it is quickly digested. The broccoli then sits on top of the pasta and waits its turn to go through the pipe, and I also didn't know until reading this book that 3 calories go through at a time, which is really interesting. Anyway, Jessie goes on to say here, on the other hand, consuming the veggies first and the carbs second significantly changes what happens. Begin by munching on the broccoli. Broccoli is a vegetable, and vegetables contain plenty of fiber. As we've seen, fiber isn't broken down into glucose by our digestive system. Instead, it goes from sink to pipe to sewage, slowly and unchanged. And really quickly here for this third breakfast that is in this video, the first one at the very beginning there, I am just cleaning up leftovers from my refrigerator. I had a little bit of onion with the garbanzo beans, which has the fiber and protein in it, and I'm just gonna bake that with, I love red onions when they bake because they get a little sweet, and if you get them a little crispy, they're just kind of crunchy, sweet bits, and so yummy. And I like the garbanzo beans to get a little crunchy in the oven. I have 1 kebab from the day before, so this is the next day. Yesterday was the day in the video that I made those kebabs. I had 1 kebab left over. I'm gonna cut it up, saute it, and I'm gonna put it in an omelet with feta cheese. So that's what this breakfast will be. All right, back to our food order chapter. Jessie says fiber has 3 superpowers. First, it reduces the action of alpha amylase, the enzyme that breaks starch down into glucose molecules. Second, it slows down gastric emptying when fiber is present. Food trickles from sink to pipe more slowly. Finally, it creates a viscous mesh in the small intestine. This mesh makes it harder for glucose to make it through to the bloodstream. Through these mechanisms, fiber slows down the breakdown and absorption of any glucose that lands in the sink after it. The result is that fiber flattens our glucose curves. Any starch or sugar that we eat after fiber will have a reduced effect on our body. We'll get the same pleasure from eating it, but with fewer consequences. She goes on to say, that's carbs and vegetables. Now enter protein and fat. Protein is found in meat, fish, eggs, dairy, nuts, beans, and legumes. Foods that contain protein often contain fat too, and fat is also found on its own in foods such as butter, oils, and avocados. She goes on to say, incidentally, there are good and bad fats, and the bad fat that we should avoid is found in hydrogenated and refined cooking oils such as canola, corn, cottonseed, soybean, safflower, sunflower, grapeseed, and rice bran oil. Foods containing fat also slow down gastric emptying. So eating them before rather than after carbs also helps flatten our glucose curves. The takeaway, eating carbs after everything else is the best move. And because I'm getting toward the end of the video and I'm still going to read a little bit more out of this chapter, I will save the portion where Jessie explains how she became the glucose goddess. I'll save that for next week when I can give a little more time to share it. Anyway, back to the chapter about eating foods in the right order. She says, to illustrate the effect of food order on glucose spikes, return to the Tetris analogy, which must be earlier in the book. Blocks coming down slowly are easy to arrange than blocks coming down quickly. When we eat foods in the right order, veggies first, protein and fat second, carbs last, not only do we slow down the speed of the blocks, we even cut down on the quantity of blocks, thanks to the mesh that fiber adds to our intestines. The slower the trickling of glucose into our bloodstream, the flatter our glucose curves and the better we feel. We can eat exactly the same thing, but by eating carbs last, we make a big difference in our physical and mental well-being. What's more, when we eat foods in the right order, our pancreas produces less insulin. And as I explained in part 2, less insulin helps us return to fat burning mode more quickly, the positive results of which are many and include losing weight. Jessie talks a little bit about fruit here in this section. A question I'm often asked when I talk about this hack involves fruit. I categorize fruits in the sugars category because although they contain fiber, they are made up mostly of glucose, fructose, and sucrose, aka sugars. Therefore, they should be eaten last. And then the final thought for this video, someone asked, how quickly can I eat the foods one after the other? She says, many different timings were studied in clinical settings, 0 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, they all seem to work. As long as you eat starch and sugars last, even if it's without stopping, you will flatten your glucose curve.